wondering how to introduce this, and all I can say is that in all my years, I've never actually been asked to do my testimony before. So this is the first time ever. I was raised in a home with Christian values, but I cannot say religious or particularly committed. I was sent to the local Sunday school, as many were in the 1960s, and I'm sure that's where the seed was planted. We lived in the lovely Cotswold village of Sheepscombe, and I attended the Methodist Sunday school there. Then we moved to Whitchurch, between Ross and Monmouth, and I was taken to Ross Methodist Church. Dad would wash the car in the car wash, and Mum made Sunday dinner. But it was a good grounding, and as a young teen, I met my first boyfriend. Attendance at church petered out, like it often does in the teens. But I was blessed with a school, Ross Secondary, which had daily Christian assemblies, and I took O-level religious knowledge, which then was based on the Bible. I remember at one assembly praying earnestly for a lad who had had a very serious bike accident. I married young at 18 in Whitchurch Parish Church and appreciated the Christian wedding, believing the prayers and the vows. And by this time I was not attending any church, but the Christian beliefs were always there in the background. Several years passed of happy marriage, but no children, and we lived at Lydia Cottage on the Staunton Road in Colford. It was named after a lady called Lydia Salter, a wonderful Christian who attended Colford Baptist Church in years past, I learnt. One day, out of the blue, when I was in my late 20s, I thought, I'll go to church. I'll try them all out. And I went to Colford Baptist Church and received a very warm welcome, and I started attending regularly. After a few weeks, I witnessed a baptismal service. This was full immersion and was the first time I had witnessed a baptism. Every time I went to church, the message of Jesus' love was clear and strong, and I knew I had to be baptized. In due course, this was arranged, and I was baptized on Easter Day around 1983. It was an amazing day. At that time, there was a sunrise service held at the Buckstone, and then an 8:00 a.m. communion service. And my friend Paula, the minister's daughter, came to these services. And at the 11 o'clock service, when I was baptized, she also joined me, a decision for her made on the day. It was very moving. When I was baptized, I really felt God's presence and a washing away of the old life as I came out of the water. I'd say that was probably the moment, you know. It was a wonderful time. And my parents, who lived far away, came, and also my then husband. That Easter weekend, my then husband, Keith, heard that his older sister in London was having a bad time. She had 2 young children and had just had a hysterectomy. Her husband had had a stroke or similar and had physically recovered, but was making life extremely difficult. We went to Bournemouth to meet another sister as well as the family from London. And I felt very full of the Holy Spirit. And with Keith's agreement, we invited the sister from London and the 2 children to come and stay with us for an undefined period of time. They are strong Christians. Our house was not large, but we managed, and the children attended school and were hoping to start afresh in the forest. They stayed with us for 9 months, but Keith was getting tired of it all, and they decided to return to London. The 9 months, it wasn't always easy, but it was very rewarding, and it was the right thing to do at the time. I was also very involved with many things at the Baptist church, which was where I felt God wanted me. Within about a year of us having been on our own again, still childless, I started a conversation about adoption. We were lying in bed, and Keith said, "We won't be adopting, I want a divorce." Well, he had been playing a lot of squash and had got his squash partner pregnant, and I was devastated. I had no idea there was an affair going on, and I prayed at that moment, "God, please forgive him and help me forgive him." And at that moment, I felt I could see Jesus standing there. I was extremely upset, and in many ways it was like a death. But I couldn't talk about it like I would if it had been a death. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't, but it was very difficult. I had one day off work and only told my manager. A difficult time followed, but we didn't have any real nastiness or bitterness, and I know it was because I prayed that prayer, and that prayer was answered. I didn't fight to keep him because the other lady was pregnant and we didn't have any children. I bought him out with our house. Fortunately, I worked in a bank, so it wasn't difficult to arrange a mortgage. So followed several months on my own. I'd never lived on my own, and I didn't really like it. And all through this, faith kept me strong, and I was still very involved at church. Just one little story here. I was on my own late at night, and there was a car crash outside. I lived right next to the road. I went outside, and a man had a head injury, and I asked him in, not thinking I was on my own. And I got him to keep his hand on his head to stop the bleeding, which he couldn't see. All well, ambulance came, etc. Another Easter day, very significant Easter day in my life. Another Easter day came. It was an interregnum, no minister, so the service was a joint effort with a few people, including myself, and I read a poem. And Peter was at the service. He didn't normally come, but he was at the service that day. And a couple of days later, a beautiful bouquet of flowers arrived with a card quoting the words from the poem that I had read. How wonderful! I wanted to thank him, but I didn't have his address. Anyway, a few days later, my cousin came to stay, and we went to a Dog and Muffler for a drink. Well, who should be at the pub? Wasn't organised, I can assure you, but who was there at the pub with a friend but Peter? And that was it. And I can still remember walking hand in hand with him out of the pub. Anyway, we were married within the year and started our life together. Now in our 30s, we wanted to start a family. But after 8 years and much prayer, we were still childless, and we decided to try IVF treatment. But with the IVF treatment, we were given only a 17% chance of success. So, it was worth a go. Anyway, 2 attempts did not come to anything, and we started on the 3rd lot. And I started the preliminary drugs, but I hadn't had a period. Perhaps you should do a pregnancy test, they said. Well, yes, I was pregnant, against all the odds and without the IVF. A miracle. And then Polly was born just before my 41st birthday. God had answered our prayer, and we named her Polly Elizabeth Jane. Elizabeth, after John the Baptist's mother, who was too old to bear children, but of course she did. So all this happened quite a while ago, and I continue to thank God for his graciousness day by day.